All right, welcome everyone. This is a Viper Professional Training and Sport webinar. Today's date is April the 13th, 2019. This is a Saturday morning webinar, and the title of today's webinar is True Trend and Predictors. And as everyone knows that's been to our webinars or our live trading room, everything that we say and do at Viper Trading Systems is for educational purposes only. Futures trading, forex trading, any kind of financial instruments trading involves risk. Therefore, there's always risk of loss. You should only trade discretionary capital, and that is money that you can afford to lose. Nothing said in this webinar, other webinars we have, our live trading room or anything else with Viper Trading Systems, should never be construed as trading or investment advice. And as always, everyone does trade at their own sole discretion. Any questions on the disclaimer? All right, if not, we're going to go ahead and get started. By the way, what we're going to talk about just right off the bat is a little bit more about TrueTrend. Now, TrueTrend is just simply an indicator that I had built a few years ago that will basically, if you just draw it on your chart, it lets you know what your overall trend is or even your minor trend. Okay, so and there's nothing just totally magical about it. Like for instance, if I was going to draw this indicator right now, I'd pretty much pick some of these bottoms on this lightning 3, like here or even here to here. You can even set it with offsets and things like that. Let's see, can you show how to load it, Mindy? Yeah. Matter of fact, we've got on the website, there is actually a true trend indicator, template that a person can use. Now, I've done mine a little bit different today, and we could even save it as a template, and I'll put it on the website as far as that goes. This is basically, with the bar colors, but without the backgrounds. So we could actually say it was like true trend, like without background or something like that. Without, let's say, no background, something like that. And I can even put that on the website. But the way you load the indicator is just simply go to the indicator file here, scroll down, and we named all of our indicators Object Trader first. That way they're in, you're not having to search through all the indicators for them. It just puts them in alphabetical order. But Object Trader True Trend, you just simply select it and then hit New. Now I've already got mine on here, so I don't need to do that. All right, but now True Trend, like I said, is just simply an indicator that when you draw a trend line and then engage it, it's going to change the background colors, and it's even going to change the bar colors. Okay, now if you're going to use the regular bar colors, that we have with our scripts, you may want to change this to where you don't change bar colors. So you could just simply click that to false. Okay, that way it won't show any bar colors at all. You could use our bar colors. Now, if you do want to use the bar colors with the true trend, you just simply leave that at true and choose the bar color that you want. And I'll show you what I'm talking about here. Let's get rid of the bar color first off. Right here, we'll take the bar color off. Go ahead and click apply. All right, now that's just the normal Ninja bar colors, right? So then if you have true trend set with your bar colors on, then it's going to simply, when you draw the line, it's going to draw the bar color like green and dark red. That's what we've defaulted at, and then yellow for neutral. Okay, now neutral simply means that if you set an offset, it's going to have the bar colors change. Like, let's say, for instance, you set this for I don't know, say maybe even a 7-tick offset or something like that. Then within 7 ticks of the line, the bars are going to go yellow instead. Okay, so I'll show you what that actually means here. Let me just go ahead and turn it on. All right, with True Trend, what you do is you just simply set the major trend and see it's just a line. Now you notice that you have a arrow so you can move it this way, and an arrow so that you can move it like this from the end of the little line, and then of course your move button also. So that's the middle one, and then these are your angles, like so. You want to make sure that these 3 dots stay inside your prices. That's extremely important. Okay, but let's say that we wanted to go ahead and draw it. I don't know, let's just draw it from here instead. All right, and we'll just bring it up here like, let's just bring it up here. Let's say that we, at the time we had seen this is what we saw, and we had, you know, our indicator had our little lightning 3, so we simply engage it. Okay, now you'll notice that, just one second, let me get this real quick. Let's go ahead and go with this one right here. That's actually, let's see, now what that's doing is that offset. Let me get rid of that. I don't want that offset quite like that. True trend. I don't use an offset usually. Oh, okay, so I'm 7 on my offset. I'm going to just go ahead and leave that at 0. Now notice if you ever reload a chart, you have to reload the indicator also. Okay. Let's go ahead and go. Now, if I had this set for, you know, my regular bar colors, if you actually engage this, see, this is actually going to just simply change the background to green. It's going to change the bar colors to green. And then you don't have our colors of bar colors. And if that's what you'd rather have, then of course just simply turn your bar colors off on your chart. Okay. Now I personally like the bar colors because I like red bar probes on you know, your longs, and I like the blue bar probes on the shorts. So for me, I would actually go ahead and turn the bar color off, set that to false, right click and set it as your default, and then simply put your bar color on the chart. And remember, if you just start it from scratch, this may be minutes, so be sure and change that to 4 range. Okay, and then when you click OK, you'll notice that anytime you change anything, you're going to have to reset it. That's simply because it's like you're you know, basically turning an indicator off and then putting it back on a chart. And then if I engage it, see, I've got my regular bar colors like that. But notice that it did change my background. Okay, now that's personally the way I like it. It's up to you, you know, how you like it. If you want these all to be green, that's fine. Okay, now what if I said, you know what, maybe this trend, see, you've got a high, you've got a low, you've got lower high. Well, let's see, high, low, lower, high, lower, low. So you basically got a little bit more of a trend line like so on your minor. Okay, now notice that it did change my bar colors to like the red color. Now I can also turn that off if I want to too. And it's up to you as an individual, but keep in mind the minor one only does bar colors to begin with. So you may want to leave it on the bar colors. Okay, because for instance, if this goes above this line right here, that will change to blue bar colors. Okay, if it goes below this one here, it will only change the background to red, but it won't change the bar colors, the way I've got it set right now anyway. Everybody see that? You know, what I'm trying to do is just try to show you a little easier way to use this. See, here's for instance, okay, your bar colors are set at false. That's on your major trend. Here's your minor trend right here. Okay, now the minor trend, since it's bar colors period, it doesn't give you, you know, to turn them on or off. If you don't want to use the minor, then don't use the minor line at all. Okay, everybody see what I'm getting at? Because this has backgrounds and bar colors. This one is strictly bar colors. Okay, it's just a minor trend is what it is. Okay, and you can also set your text color and things like that. Now, what I like to personally do is, let's say, for instance, I've got this set, okay, and I want to think about taking this trade, okay. Now, what I would use then would be the wedge trade, change that to wedge, all right, and then even turn on long and short. But what you got to do now, keep in mind, these are not going to fire a trade. This is strictly an indicator. Okay, we're going to have that in Ninja 8 to where I'm going to be able to do this where these are going to be true trend, and you'll be able to actually activate it if you want to. So we'll incorporate it into it. But for the time being, what you're going to do, let's say that I wanted to go short if it breaks this, and I wanted to go long if it breaks this. That's the whole reason that we designed a wedge right there. Okay, and this true trend basically, rather than looking at, just strictly colors and midbands and things like that, you're really just going to draw along, highs. And usually as a rule, you're going to find that your angle is going to be roughly about what it is here. When you get out of a trade, though, to give an example, see this trade here, thrust, retrace, thrust, retrace. The way I like to do to get out of a trade like this is like that. Okay, not necessarily using line 6 as my out. Let's say, for instance, I'd gone long here. Okay, I like to use these trend lines because they'll get you out at a good spot. Okay, and however a trend line draws is the way you want to draw it too, because if it would have thrust up and pulled back deeper and then thrust up and pull back deeper, your trend line might be at an angle like that instead. Okay, now let's go ahead and just activate this and see. Now what I personally like to do with wedge, because it works extremely well, is always use the touch feature. Okay, I usually like to use a 2. It's up to you if you want to use more than a 2. You can do that if you want. Now, there's another way I want to show you that you can actually do this also, and that would be to just simply draw trend lines, but don't use the wedge, but use a region instead, and you can actually have a region pop up like right when it breaks trend line, to give an example. Okay, I'll show that in just a little bit, but let's see which way this trade actually decides to go. We're going to just simply scalp it just for the fun of it. We'll do a scalp of 3 contracts and see if we can actually get 10 ticks without hitting any kind of a stop out. Okay. See, it held that trend line. And by the way, you could buy that bottom trend line too instead of, whoop, didn't turn that on, did we? Okay, there we're in the trade. Coming back a little bit on us. It's okay. We'll see if we can get 10 ticks. Now keep in mind, anytime you use more contracts, you're going to feel a little bit more heat possibly. Right now we're green, but a minute ago I saw that hit about 200 or so. See if we can get those 10 ticks. And let's re-engage our, see how that's still showing obviously that we're in a nice upward trend right now. Now if it does decide to break this later on, of course it'll change that. Okay. Now, of course, keep in mind that when we're breaking this trend line right now, we don't have to leave this stop where it's at now, because that's a $450 hit. We could actually pull the stop up just underneath the swing and see we're only going to risk like $240 now. Okay. And then of course, if it pops up above here, you could even, sorry about that, you could even move your stop just underneath the lightning swing. That way now we're only going to feel 4 ticks of heat and see if we can actually get the actual trade or get stopped out. Okay, anytime it's choppy like this, you really want to, more than likely, and I'm going to turn that on exit on close. I like exit on close. It's getting stair-stepping up a little bit, isn't it? It may get us. If it does, it does. Yeah, that one got us. All right, so we felt 110 ticks of heat on a little trend line break like that. So could you have also used a trend line though to get out of the trade? And the answer is yes on that, right? You can do that. So let's see if we can get in another trade. We'll just get rid of our lines. All right, and we'll see if we can get in another trade. So we're down 110 right now. Let's use, what do you think? You want to use our, we're still in a green background, so we're still looking for longs, right? We're strictly looking for longs so far. So where do y'all want to draw this next one? If you were using like True Trend or you were using your trend line. Let me see, if you take a bounce off of a trend line or a line, do you preset your stop? Well, Mindy, you could actually, of course, see, I've got this defaulted at the 15. You don't have to do that, obviously, because I moved my stop. I saved. It looks like we only got hit for 110 on that one, which is not too shabby, you know, because you want to keep your losses pretty low, right? Okay. Now, it is getting a little bit higher low so far. What do y'all think? You want to try it? Let's see if we can get another trade. Draw like a trend line. What do you think? Or just wait a few minutes and see what it's going to do. Let's see. Phantom trade. We could look for a phantom trade. We could definitely do that. Or we can draw a trend line. See if we can get something. This is a fairly choppy, so what do y'all want to do? Now, this is the type of decisions you need to make, you know, in the room as things are trading. So obviously it's pretty important to be ready to do whatever trade you're going to do. So what says the team? I'm going to draw a trend line. Okay, we lost $110, but fair's fair, right? Have you ever lost on a trade? Okay, so let's see if we can draw another one. I see like a thrust retrace, thrust retrace. I'm going to draw a tight trend line on this one and do a tighter stop. So let's do, we're still in a long trend so far until we actually break this area right here. And here's even your swing over here to the left. See, it's pretty much the same area. So let's do a trend line. And we'll do it again. Touch plus 2, by the way, is the same thing as touch plus 3 in a way, you know, because you've got to do 3. Let's see, is MIP in here? Not very probable. Well, Phil, what I'm going to show today a little bit more is like using True Trend to give an example. Let's see, let's go to set our minor. And this will change those bar colors to blue if it goes above it at all. And I'm using my little wedge. See if we can get that drawn in the same spot. And we'll see if we can get something here. Okay, let's see if we can get something. It's going a little bit deeper. Speed this up just a little bit and see if we can get something. Now, I would probably have redrawn my trend line a little bit tighter, but anyway, because that looks like that's going to bounce to me right there, and that's where I would have bought it. But let's just do it with the trend line and see if it works for 10 ticks. Touch plus 1. See if we can get our 110 back anyway. Fast forward this just a little bit and see if we get stopped at or if we get a trade. How many of you have done that in the morning where you're down a little bit and then all of a sudden you're, well, there we go, we got it. So we got $190 so far. Okay. Now I want to show you a way to get this here in a few minutes with like predictor that's actually pretty good also, because we're going to talk about that one today too. Okay. Now let's look at our overall chart though. Let's see what's actually happening on this chart right now. Okay, we got a little bit lower low. Did you notice that? And we've got a high, a low, a lower high, and a lower low. So the possibility of this actually changing trends could be, but not just yet, right? Because what would we need to actually change trends? Anybody? Well, you'd need to break your support, right? Let's draw our line. That's where support is right now, right? So what I would have to do to actually take this trade short, to give an example, would be to break this, if it's actually starting to head down, that is. And then I'd have to come back and kiss, and then I'd get a little rollover. That's what I'd be looking for. Okay? Now, we got that little trend line type trade, so you want to try another one? What says the team? What do you think? We already missed it on that one, by the way, because we already stopped out of the other one. You want to see if we can get another one? All right, let's see. I'll slow this down so that we can see. Let's see here. We've got a little trend line sitting up right here, right? What do y'all think about that one? Because you got to make a decision fairly quick. Our true trend says we're still in an uptrend, so let's try and see if we can get 10 ticks with a little trend line break. We'll see. All right, there's the break. You ever notice that almost no matter where you decide to get in, they always pull back the next bar? Isn't that strange? We'll go ahead and raise our stop a little bit. I'd pull that target back myself because there's a top right there. And I'd be pretty leery if it didn't take it out. Just trying to take out that swing. This is a pretty choppy mess. I didn't choose this on purpose. I just set my charts and had phone calls coming in. So see if we get this trade at all or not. Is it going to stop us? It certainly could. Got stopped on that one, so we're up $70 now. All right. So let's see what we want to do here. Let's draw a little trend line underneath here, like so. Matter of fact, I'd be shorting that little puppy if it breaks that. But let's do it more with a trend line. Well, let's leave it because I saw it. Let's just take it. Okay, we're back in business again. Everybody see why I did that? Because I was going to draw the trend line that I was seeing, but I couldn't do it quick enough. So everybody see that trend line right there that I was looking at? See there? That's what I was looking at. Okay? So if you ever see something like that and you're, even if you're trading like sideways and things like this, notice that if this type of stuff right here, this is where every trader that I know of will usually end up losing on a trade or two. Or they just stay out of it when it's in this color background. Because this is that, you can actually tell that this is that color background to begin with that we normally have. I can put the background on it and prove it because I can see it because we're the ones that designed it. All right, so let's see if we can get a trade. Now, we're breaking down now, so we're not going what? We're not going long yet, right? We want to actually do a trend line in the opposite direction. See our little mid-band changed colors? Okay, let's see if we can get another one. We need a little thrust and pullback. I see resistance right here. See if we can get a little pullback so that we can get in that trade. Now, I don't like a real sideways line like that's trying to do right there, but let's see if we can get a better one. See, because in this case, your line, if this pops up, would be like this. I don't like that. See what I mean? That wouldn't give you any kind of a trade, so I would not do a trend line like that. See if we get any kind of a pull where we can draw a trend line. Let's see real quick, just 1 second. We got some questions coming in. What do you do when you do not have enough time to draw a box or wedge? I hit market order. See, that's like when I saw that just a minute ago when it broke that trend line, I just hit market order. Now, this would not be a trend line right here. Notice that you don't have any candle going back, but it is hitting resistance. So could you actually draw this like underneath the lows of those candles? You want to try it and see? Well, it's already hitting it, unfortunately. See if we can get, well, we'll just try it with like that instead. See if we can get 10 ticks. All right, we're in. We're going to put our stop just above the swing. Now keep in mind with this choppy like this, all I'm doing, if you notice, is going for little quick moves, not going for gusto trades. Because why? Because we're not breaking down. We haven't really broken down enough to do that yet. And we may not. They're going to get us a trade or not. By the way, we all have mornings where we'll do something like this. If you're up like $340 and you think, you know what, that's probably good enough till this thing decides to do one way or the other, you could always do that because, see, otherwise you're giving it back. We'll go ahead and leave our stop and just see if we can get it, but I'm not liking the looks of that. Well, we got it anyway. How about that? Okay. All right. Let's look at our little trend line though and see what this chart's actually still doing. Let's draw a trend line. Let's see. We've got tops right across here. See these lightning 3 right here? Let's draw a trend line. Now this is actually going to make this go red from here to here. If I engage that, see there? Okay. So if this does decide to break above this trend line, we could head up, right? All right. But we could also draw a minor one. More like that even, couldn't we? With that having kind of a real deep thrust and a pullback and a little higher low like that. Could we actually see if we could take that to the long side if it broke? What do you think? Or you want to try it, or you want to just call it quits on this particular trade? Because one thing about it, when you're trading, you got to make up your mind. Now, keep in mind, you can also do this with your trend lines even, okay? See how basically you've got a lower high here, you've got a high, low, lower high, lower low. So if they were to break this, could you actually even do a wedge more straight across? And you can. See, like I could put a wedge right across here if I wanted to, or draw it across those tops like that. Okay? Because the overall trend from this side is still up. Everybody see that? See here, high, low, higher high. This is actually on the left side of the chart is still heading up, not down. Okay? So you could trade this both ways. We actually got the mid band, so we did short one on a trend line break. Okay? But we're still looking very possibly for longs, unless this decides to break, pull back and kiss, and then we'll do another one short. But otherwise, if it breaks this trend line, I would probably do a quick long. Let's don't risk as much though. We've got good profit. Let's do this. It's already breaking it actually. See if we can get $200. I'm going to tighten the stop. Now granted, that's still 12 ticks, unfortunately. But it did kind of stair step. See how you got a low here, a high, higher low, and a higher high. So they shouldn't take that out. They may try though. Higher low. Not just yet. That might be a higher low now. And it looks like we got us another one. All right, so the trend is still up right now, right? Somebody's asking, would you try like a larger trend line at all? Well, you want to try one and just see if it works? All right, let me just give it a shot. I see right through there, don't you? You want to try it? Something like that. See, that's the trend line right there. Now, that's more of a breakout trade to me, but you said to try it, so let's try it. Let's just see. Either that or we're going to break down and we'll look the other way. It's getting higher lows. Now, I'd be drawing a different trend line myself on this one right about now, but let's just see if we can break that big one and do anything at all. Or if it's going to break. What do you think? Let's do a wedge. There you go. We got it wedged in. Now, usually when they make a higher low like that, I would redo my trend line myself, more like this right across here. Everybody see why I would do that? Well, for one thing, you can get in a better spot, but also you can see that, you know, from even this swing, and if you did it from this swing right here, like so, and like right across those highs, like so, then that should be wedged in. Okay? Now notice that you did not break below here. Do you know that you can actually use True Trend on this too? Just clear your major, set it again, and to me, until it takes this out right here, see, that's all green. So, you know, the one thing about it, when it's sideways like this, there we go, we got our trade. Where we put our stop, that's good enough right there. See if we get taken out or there we got it. Okay. Now, like I said, while we're in this range, we're just strictly scalping. Okay, that one cost us some because we could have gotten some more money on it. But unfortunately, we were just getting 10 ticks, but that's still adding up, right? Okay, now what do you do now that you've got this little bit going? Well, you're definitely long, right? So what are you looking for? You're looking for another trend line to draw. Let's see if we can get one. We need like an A, B, C, so that we can draw a trend line, right? I do use True Trend sometimes like this too, to where if you can see your major swing on the left, you just draw your line instead of you know, here's the thing about any kind of a trend line. See, if you drew your trend line like right through here, see your thrust, you know, and they started getting those lowers, see the difference? It goes all funky like that. So, you know, if you do see it in real time and you want to just reset this thing, you can certainly do that. You know, just bring it over under your lows and engage it and see everything's green. Okay. So some of this is a little bit more arbitrary. You see what I'm getting at? Because if you look at the overall, okay, and it gets kind of sloppy on four range, there's no question about it, but you can clearly see if you look at it like thrust, retrace, thrust. pulls back a little bit more. So when I count those, I then start over and I go thrust, retrace, thrust, retrace, but it didn't take out the top. See what I mean? So it's still thrust, retrace, thrust, retrace, thrust. So that is your low. Okay, everybody see how I did that? You know, basically what you're looking at when you do that is, if you look at your swings, you're actually drawing a swing like this, pulls back, but you have to take out this swing by a good 10 ticks or so. So what I consider is, you know, until it does, let's just draw it from here instead, because to me, this was more like this right here. This was a thrust. This was your retrace. Everybody see that? But then when this takes this out, you see what I mean, where it takes this out, then you've got to just really in your own mind just say, you know what, it's more like this and more like this. See, and as long as you get, you know, continue getting higher lows and everything, but taking out the previous swings, then you're kind of drawing it in your mind, and you got to see these lightning swings. On the left side of the chart, more important, because on the right side, you can be doing all kinds of things and you could still scalp it and make some money. Okay, see, because right now you can clearly see we're in a range, and it's a pretty good size range, but you're in a range from there to there. Okay, so let's see if we can get in another trade. We're still in an uptrend according to TrueTrend. All right, we don't have a thrust retrace just yet. Now you could draw a trend line there. You want to try that trend line, see if it works? The one thing about it, you got to make up your mind quickly on these type of things, okay? See if you drew a trend line across there, like so. Now I like personally a thrust, a retrace of about, you know, a good halfway of it, and then even another, so that you get a thrust, retrace, thrust. But see, if you were going to get in this trade, you've already been in it. It looks like you got a scalp. Okay. Now keep in mind that instead of going for 10 ticks, we could actually set a scalper up for like 5 or 6, like Charles likes, for instance, and then you're 10 if you want to. And to do that, you do it with Object Trader. Just simply go to your strategy. Remember, we set up a little template the other day. Load your template. I set one up for a scalp on oil. Remember what it was? We were setting it for 8 and 10. So if you think, you know what, if I'm going to do 3 contracts, maybe I want to do, you know, 6 and 10. That would give me 120 and 10. That'd be $220, because it would do 2 contracts here, 1 contract here, unless I went ahead and did 6, like 8, and then 10, because that way, if I used all 3 targets, that would give me 14, 24, it'd be 24 total ticks. Everybody see that? But then I would change this to 3, obviously, and this to all 3 targets. And the way you do that would be choose like 6, 8, and 10, call it our scalper, and we want to do a quantity of 3, so that's correct. And we would save that as our template, scalp oil. All right, then when you put it on the chart, you'll notice that it's 6, 8, and 10. And if you do 3 contracts, it's going to automatically take 1 off at 6, 1 off at 8, and 1 up, pardon me, yeah, 1, 1, and 1. So you do 6, 8, and 10. Okay, so in a case like that, you'll normally get a scalp. 10's harder to get. You know, the way they like to do in the markets, anybody notice that quite often you get some really good trades that'll hit like 8 ticks but not 10? You know, you'll see a scalp in the room, for instance, and you'll get 7 or 8, and then you're back in, you know, right at your cost again. Does everybody see a trend line now? I see one now. So let's see if we can get it. See what I was looking for? I was looking for a thrust and a retrace. That will give me a trend line right there. And by the way, you can draw it tighter if you see it. Like, for instance, if this bar goes down instead of up, I'd draw the trend line from there to there. Okay? Like if this bar closes down, let's see if it does. If it does, we'll draw it tighter. We can tighten the daylights out of this trend line. See how you're doing a little bit tighter now? Strictly doing some scalps because we're still in this stupid range. All right, we got our entry. I'm going to put my stop just under the swing. Instead of 15, that's 11, close of the bar. And all I want is a scalp. Because what I'm trying to do here today is show a little bit more. Now, if this runs, do you really care? Because what you'd have to do if it runs is you'd have to move one of your targets out of the way. You know, and you can do that, but keep in mind if you're going to scalp, you're going to get in and out. Let's see, so can't just change numbers on face of Object Trader. Yes, you can do that too, Richard, and as long as you don't restart Object Trader, it will remember that. Okay? Like, let's say, for instance, you just change it up here. Now, the new Object Trader in Ninja 8 is going to have little arrows up and down, so you'll be able to choose that. And you'll also be able to choose how many contracts go on each little easy. It looks like we're going to get our scalp. Now, could this be a runner? Well, you could move it if you wanted. Put your stop just under the swing. But keep in mind that sometimes a scalp, see how we're adding up on this pretty decently to begin with? Okay, let's look at our tops. We've got totally still a big range, don't we? High, low, much higher high, high, low, higher high, higher low, higher high. So that's still your low, and it held. Okay? You could have bought it at support as far as that goes because we draw on our charts all the time. But what would it take if this decided to break down? Because if you look to the left to trade the right, you do also have here a high, a low, lower highs so far. So if it did break this trend line, you could be ready to go the other way if it did. Everybody see that? And then you could go like a big wedge, to give an example. Let's see if I can get it drawn. Yeah, we can draw it. Let's see if we get the rest of this trade, though. We haven't got it yet. May get stopped out. Nope, we're going to get our target. Got our target. Okay, now, see, I drew it here, but notice that you got a high here, so I would redraw this. More like that now. That's pretty much the wedge you're in right there. Okay, now I don't personally like breakout trades at all myself because you'll end up finding out you're not going to do quite as well as you thought you would. Okay, but if this was to break up and pull back and kiss, now let's say that you just got up, or well, it's middle of the morning, but if you don't like the kind of trading we just did right now, what would you be looking for as a conservative trader? Anybody? Because what I'd be looking for if I was trading more conservatively that day would be they would have to break above here, and this was clear way in the middle of the morning. Say it was 3 o'clock in the morning or so, 4 o'clock. And this one down here was the night before, just right about midnight or a little before. So that's the range you're in. Okay? So if you're more of a conservative trader, you're looking for this trade to break up and pull back, or you're looking for this trade to break down and pull back and kiss. Because if you don't want to trade this type of a range like this, like we just did, you really want to draw your lines like, and I see Charles teach this all the time. You can definitely tell if you're in a range if you'll draw your lines in the morning. And be sure and look at the overall trend. You know, what's it doing? Draw your line. Okay? And then you can pretty much tell that you're in that range. Now, what would you do in a case like we're in right now? Anybody? Could you actually decide if you wanted to take a trade even now with like a trend line, to give an example? Because you can see you've already broken the one. We already broke it and we took the trade. See right across here? All right. But it's also breaking that swing right here. Just a little bit anyway. So could you take a trade if it broke above that swing right there? Draw another trend line. Like so. And if it broke above that, could you take a trade and take a chance and put your stop at mid-band or at this little swing? Because it looks to me like it's going to break that. I would try it, more than likely. If I just got at my trading computer and I saw this price action right here, I'm seeing that they're trying to break out of that box right there. But I can promise you this, I would put a tight stop on it. You want to try it and see? Bruce asked me the other day, if I get in a trade and I don't want it to go against me, what do you actually do? Well, what you can do in a case like that is, let's say that you want to take this trade only if it decides to break up above this swing and you don't want it to go against you. And let's say you're not even in the mood for scalping. You want to just go for like a gusto trade. I don't know if we'll get it. Let's see. Let's go for 20 and 40. And I'm going to box it instead. See if I got time to box it. And if it decided to break down, could I do this? Yep. See, because that's a high, low, higher, high. So if it broke this, it should head down, probably test here. And if it breaks this, it should break up and test here. But when I talk about a tight stop, let me show you what I'm talking about if we get one of these trades. And by the way, you could also watch a trend line too, just in case, and see if we can get a trade. Well, we got it. We're in. All right. Now, let me ask a quick question. If you were taking this trade and you didn't want it to go against you, where would you put that stop almost immediately? Because I can see it. My cursor's almost at it. If that bar closes up, that's a lightning swing. So could I protect it that tight? Take a chance? I'm taking a chance with 180 bucks. Okay. Now, when I talk about a trade going your way, I mean that it should continue going your way. Okay. So you really don't want this trade to actually even go back inside this box with a close. But this is a good stop right here for right now anyway. Okay. Does everybody see a little bit more how to use trend lines on your charts and how you can very possibly make a little bit more coin by doing so? We didn't get around to the predictors as much, and we've only got 10 more minutes, so I think we'll skip the predictors. Does anybody have questions on using the wedge or the trend lines? Let's see, one bar down, do you close out? No, you can't do it with one bar down. Because if you've ever noticed, unless they're really going to break, they'll do a bar up and a bar down in a heartbeat anyway. Now, I would go ahead and protect my coin now, like right in through here, see where that swing is, with the close of a bar. Because if they were to come back, I wouldn't expect them to do much more than kiss that line. So I'm protected now on that trade. I could lose $60, but that's about it. You want to see if it works? That's going to get us. You're going to get us? Just kiss that. Wow. That's drawn in accuracy, isn't it? See what they do? They test those swings. May get us. Tested the swing again. How about that? It worked. Now, how do we know that was going to more than likely work? Because it broke out above here. And how many times have you seen them where they break out and they pull back? That's exactly the principle we're talking about right here. That's the principle we're talking about here. You know, because if this was to break down here, I would expect it to continue down if it was to break and retrace. And matter of fact, let's just run this. I'm going to draw some trend lines on the charts. Let's just kill this. We don't care about the trade. I'm going to draw some trend lines on the chart, and let's see if they hold true. We're going to do a clear major. We're going to do a set major. We're finally breaking up, aren't we? Let's do this at 500 times and let's see what this thing does. Now, if you were in a trade like this, what would you do? Trend line, right? So if you were in that trade, I'd probably be getting out of it. See why? Now, if you use this as your stop instead, that would be fine too. Right across here. Okay, because you might get a higher low. Seeing trend lines can get you out a little early, but I find a lot of times when they break those trend lines that they'll go back up, they won't take out the high, or they'll take out the low to begin with. So see, you're out of the trade already. So did you protect some coin while somebody else, they may make a little bit more money than you, you know, but could you actually protect yourself by doing so and taking your trades out on trend lines? And the answer is absolutely yes, right? All right, let's keep going on this, see if we can draw some more. I'm going 500 times, so this is going to go fairly fast. Now, I'll bet you this gets a lightning 3 before it's over. See how many bars you're starting to get. That'll probably get a dot. It hasn't yet, but it probably will. If it doesn't, then this one probably will. Let's see which one gets it. Still going 500 times. This is still stair-stepping up so far, but notice how we got out right here. So you're still lower than that. So the people that stayed in, you know, that didn't get out on the trend line break might be a little ahead of you right now, but now they're below you. I like trend line breaks myself. Sometimes they're real tight lines, you know, but you have to get the little, you know, thrust retrace and actually be able to draw it. See, with this one right here, of course, you could have gotten out right here, right? Like that, if you just saw it breaking that top, but you missed part of the trade. But if you'll wait for it to actually lightning, where you can draw the trend line nicely, you know, like in other words, a thrust and a retrace and then a thrust, so you take out the high, then you can draw that trend line. There's your dot. Now, what would you want to bet more than likely that if they do take this out, that you'd be looking very possibly at a deeper retracement? That's if they take it out. Still running 500 times. Let's see what this thing does. So far, it's still heading up there. It's taking out support a little bit, not much. You want to draw a trend line, see if we can get one more trade? This is not conducive to drawing trend lines, by the way. Everybody see why? You could have drawn one here, and you probably would have gotten 10 ticks. But so far right now, you have no trend lines you could actually draw. It's just pretty much sideways. Now, if we get a trend line, we might be able to draw one. Let's see. There's support right here, too. Now, usually what I would probably do in a case like this, I would more than likely buy this thing if it came down to this line and see if I could get 10 ticks. That still didn't do a trend line because it didn't do a thrust, and then where you could draw a trend line. So you're still going sideways. That might be a trend line. What does everybody think? Is that a trend line? You got to make a quick decision. Is that a trend line? Let's see if it is. Oh, that's region. Sorry about that. It just hit support again. You want to stop us? Takes out this line, more than likely I would stop out of this. Let's see if we get a lightning up at all before I move my stop. I'm going to put it in mid-band though. Risking 10. Now I'm going to put it here. Risking 6. It's going to get us. If it does, it does. Yep, that's going to get us. And maybe not. Put our stop underneath the yellow bar now. It looks like that trend line worked too. Notice that it didn't take us out because we put our stop underneath the swing and they didn't take it. It looks like we may get this trade. I'm going to tighten that stop again. Now we're only risking 2. And that may get us for sure. If it does, it does. 2 ticks. Nope, didn't get us. See how those swings hold? I always look at it like if it gets us, it gets us. I mean, whenever you take a trade, you got to start tightening your stop. There's no question about that with your micro lightning. Because micro lightning is critical to making money in trading. Because you're going to notice when you draw on your charts that continually when they thrust up and they pull back and they thrust up a little bit, see where you got a little lightning drawn? See how that's trying to hold? It may not hold. And if it gets us, it gets us 2 ticks. And that got us. No big deal, right? Now you have a high, a low, lower highs. Where would this thing break down if it decided to break down? Because it looks to me like it might. That same thing we drew over here, right? Thrust, retrace, thrust. Could we draw a trend line right now, though, just in case this decides to go back up? Sure. When they start breaking that lightning 3, like even over here, see, earlier they were just barely breaking it, but now you're starting to really, you've got another lightning. So you have a high, a low, a lower high, a lower low, a lower high even than over here. You know, they're still not breaking down just yet. But could you box this in even? You actually could, and more than likely I would, because they're breaking lightning 3. You want to just chance it and see? Got to hurry. I'm going to do it. And I'm going to put a real tight stop on it, just in case. Now, why did I do that right there? Because it's breaking lightning 3. It broke lightning 3 over here, and it's breaking lightning 3 over here. So that's like a 1, 2, 3. Okay? Even a 1, 2, that was almost like a double top. So basically when I see that, it's 1, 2. So you're 1, you're 2, okay? Sorry, 1, 2, 3. And when you break that lightning like that, then more than likely you're going to get that scalp. I got this going 500 times and not even moving. Let's see if this trade works out. That was about 1 o'clock in the afternoon right there. So we're not in the room at all. Did anybody get something out of this today, like drawing on your charts? You know, for instance, if this does break this trend line right here, this is even going to change colors, the background even. And it might do it. Let's see, is there an older video on predictor? Well, Richard, on predictor, and I meant to actually show that today, and I apologize that I wasn't able to get to it. But I think this was pretty important too, that we can all get into some trades. And by the way, if you do this little method and even try to do like a 8-tick stop and a 6-tick target, you'll be surprised how many times you'll get 6 ticks continually. You know, like for instance, could you even draw a trend line where we're at right now and see if you could get 6 ticks? But we're short, so we're not, you know, but what if this was to decide to break this trend line? Could it get 6 ticks or so? It could. Doesn't look like it's going to though, but you got your trend line drawn. It's kissing and hugging the trend line. This puppy's going to break. Now watch true trend. If it does break, you should get that to change to red. That's if it breaks. You want to see real quick? Y'all want to stick around for like 10 more minutes and see if we can get another trend line type trade at all? What's our rule of thumb, everyone? You've got to break and pull back, right? That's pretty important. And sometimes you're going to miss a really good trade because, you know, if they break and don't go against you, you can take the trade, but that's called a breakout trade. We like more to where they thrust, pull back, and then roll. So let's look to the left to trade the right. We got support right here. It broke it. You can't take this out if you're going to head up. So you're not going to go any higher than that right there. So if they did decide to go check that, could you actually short that trade? Or do you think it's just bouncing off a trend line? You got to make a decision pretty quick. What do you think? Looks like it's breaking down, doesn't it? Now I'm going to take everything off the chart. I want to see if y'all can nail the next trade. Let's see if we can get a trade. Okay, we broke down. We took a trade because we broke lightning 3 on a 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's see if anybody can pick the next trade. You got to get it on a pullback. What do you think on a pullback? Yeah, I'd be looking for, count your lightning. See, you have a high, low, lower high, lower low. So this lightning is what I consider to be your secondary swing. Okay, this is a little lower, but they never took out the low. So that's your actual identified swing right there. So I would be looking for a trade more than likely if it kissed that and rolled. So could you be ready with the trend line if it did? Well, let's see if we can get a trend line. I'm going to speed it up again. Hopefully we can see it in time. I've got it going 500 times again though. We got to get a little thrust, retrace, thrust so we can draw a trend line. So I'll get the trend line ready. There we go. See how that bar's trying to go up? A lot of times you can even do it with that one like that because it did try to go up. And it kissed right where I said it would. There you go, you got you a trade. See why lightning is so important on your chart? Notice that this one was not identified here. This one was. So you have to look at it. Little stair step. Tried to break it, couldn't. Tried to break the bottom, couldn't. It wicked it. So that is not identified, but that is. And that's what they tested, was right there. Okay, if you miss this trade entirely, now notice that we've got our background. Let's set our major again. Now, could you do that? This looks like this wants to break to me. I'm going to break even. I'm going to ride a runner. But I'm going to get out on a trend line. If that bar goes down. Nope. There we go. We'll get out of our trade if it breaks it and we're flat. Everybody see how I did that with the trend line? Now keep in mind that that may have gotten out a little bit too early, very possibly. But if you missed this trade entirely, did anybody see this also perfectly kissed? I think we're going to do a webinar on kiss trades. Notice how you had a swing down here. They kissed up here. So basically, this little area right here was support. And see how they kissed it? Now that's more than likely a pretty good area to reshort it. I'd probably actually even take a chance on it and put my stop just right above there if I got up at 1 o'clock in the morning and saw this in real time. Everybody see why I did that? Because it kissed and it's trying to roll. Because you might, this is like an hour's time with just these few bars right here. So if you see something like that where it kissed and you got a bar down and you want to take a chance at that trade, like with 7-tick stop or something, just above that swing like that, let's see if it worked. Because it looks to me like they're trying to trail down. Well, I'm doing it again. It just kissed it. I forgot to turn on my exit on close, didn't I? That's why I like exit on close. That would not have gotten me. Draw your trend line. Everybody see the trend line? Well, that's actually a nice tight one. But could you scale out of this? Yes. because that way you're not taking a chance on a full pullback with all your contracts. See how you can draw trend lines on your charts? Notice that you kept getting bar down, bar up, bar down, so you can draw that trend line. See how that's more than likely going to get us out of 2 contracts. See there? But we're not flat. Where would we draw a trend line to get flat? What does anybody think? We'll wait for a little more of a thrust up and see if it'll roll over, and we'll see if we can draw a trend line to get out of the trade. See if we can draw it in real time. There you go. Matter of fact, you would have already gotten out. See it? I had it on 500 times, but that's where I would have drawn it like that. Because see how when it double bottomed, you could draw a trend line? You could be flat on that trade when it broke that trend line. That's why I personally like trend lines and true trend and being able to draw on your charts. And when you're getting ready to get in a trade, you can box them. You know, Charles loves boxing. I like boxing and I like trend lines. So where does anybody think this next trade is on this chart? See where they broke down profusely? Bet you almost a $100 bill they'd come right to that line, kiss it, and roll over. And why do I think that? Well, you're definitely in a downtrend until they take this out. Right? You're definitely in a downtrend until they take that out. So you're looking for rollovers. So you'd be looking for that trade right there. If they get there, let's see if they do. They just hit it. Went a little higher. Now let's put our stop just above the swing, exit on close. And ride our runner. And do it with a trend line, couldn't we? Now keep in mind I got this going like 500 times, so it's going to be a little more tough to do this. But that would be my trend line, and I would take out 1 on a break. Okay? Really appreciate your dedication to teach us. No problem at all. That's what we're here for. And by the way, if you re-engage that other trend line, you'd still be red on here to begin with. Now, I personally still like our background, but if you could teach yourself to see these trend lines instead of having to draw true trend, you'll still be able to take some trades against the trend. Because there's times where you can get a 5, 6, 8 tick trade just by simply breaking a good trend line. If you try not to go against the trend itself, you'll find that you'll do even better. But if you want to see real quick, for instance, if you could do like 6 ticks, if it broke this trend line to the long side, you want to see if you can get $60 just for the fun of it? Let's do 6 ticks if it breaks that trend line, and even reverse it if it does. What do you think? You want to try that, or do you not want to? I probably wouldn't against that, what it's doing right now. Let's see if we can get a trend line that we could. Well, there's a reversal trade. That didn't give me my target. You notice that? Okay, see how they can break trend lines like that? Now, the way this is doing now, I probably would do it. See it? That's a lot more little swingy. See if you can get 6 ticks. Where'd my target go? It's not getting my target. Evidently, I've done something to Object Trader. If you ever have something like that happen, just simply do this. Right-click, Strategy, Object Trader remove, apply, Object Trader back on, because we probably did something with turning the replay on and off and things like that and speeding it up. Okay? So, what does everybody think about very possibly doing some pretty nice trend lines? Could you draw a trend line under these lows? What if you just got up just now? Ten ticks, touch, It was a little late because I would have done this one instead. But let's just say I'm just now getting up. That's the one I would have done right there. Let's see if it'll work, just for the fun of it. That's region. I missed it. But anybody can see it, still broke it. I didn't get it because I didn't get it turned on. But everybody see that? Draw your trend lines on your charts. You're going to be more than amazed at what you can do with it. And if nothing else, try it in sim until you get really good at it and drawing on them and everything. And always keep in mind that they can go the opposite direction, and you got to keep realizing that as you get lower highs like this, and we're still breaking down, that more than likely if they break that trend line, they might even head up. I don't know if it did, but let's see if it did sometime during the day. We're running a little bit late, but I like trend lines. Now, if I get another trend line, I'm going to draw it again if I get a dot. There's your little mid-band trade. You could draw a trend line right there. Just like that, couldn't you? 10 ticks. There's 10 ticks. What do you think, anybody? Works out pretty good? Does anybody remember this particular trade? I just remember this one just now. Remember when we called this little trade in the room on Friday? I think it was, that might have been Thursday. Yeah, that was Thursday. Remember where this kept hitting this trend line right here? Not trend line, but horizontal line. We took this actual trade. I called this one here. I remember this now. 87, remember? Called 87. It broke up, gave us 10 ticks, came back to 87, got that trade. We got this little trade here the other day. And we did that knowing that we were starting to break trend lines and break trend lines. See it when it broke it? Notice how it just kissed that. Same trend line, that's when it pulled back. But if you were up at 7:41 in the morning, you could have gotten this trade when it broke this trend line and just stayed in it quite a bit of the day. So draw your trend lines on your charts, and I think you'll be amazed. Predictor trades are really good, and we're going to talk about those a little bit more on Monday. Sorry I ran about 20 minutes over, everyone. I hope everybody got something out of this. Does anybody remember we also boxed this in the room when this broke? 93. Now, I've got this going too fast to trade right now, obviously, but I think you can clearly see with some trend lines, you can probably get some fairly decent coin. Do you see a trend line now? Ten ticks. Oh, we already had it on. I already had it on. I better tighten my stop. There we go. And we got 10 more ticks. Trend line breaks. Pretty good way to trade, isn't it? Trade with the trend. Notice that this was breaking down, so we were trading with the trend. When this was breaking up, we were trading with the trend the other direction. And you can do quite well. And also, we're going to talk here in the very near future about some really good support and resistance, and that's going to be these predictors. Okay, thanks everybody for coming. Hope you enjoyed it. And I still hear that we're getting very, very close to getting the indicator that's going to be getting us in a lot of these trades. Okay, thanks everybody for coming. Hope you enjoyed it. And I hope I got all the questions, and I apologize if I didn't. Let's see, don't have anything checked on, what's that, Mindy? Okay, if you look to the left a ways back, once it broke the trend line, it's been heading down ever since, but you would need a heavy stop. Well, if you draw larger trend lines, yes, keep in mind that if you're more of a breakout trader, you're going to have to use larger stops. And I would highly recommend not doing 3 and 4 contracts if you do that. You know, for instance, if you thought that, let's say that you broke this trend line right here. Let's say that you broke this trend. Come on, draw. Not letting me draw. Let's say you broke that trend line right there. Let's say that you were looking at this trend line with TrueTrend, to give an example. Okay, and it breaks it and you're in the trade. Where would your stop be? It wouldn't be clear down here. Anybody see it? Right there, right? Because if they take this out, then they're not really breaking that trend line. So, since that now became support right there to the left, could you comfortably take that breakout right there and put your stop there with one contract? Probably so. But don't go all the way to the bottom. Always look to see, for instance, if they had broken this and barely kissed this swing here and rolled over, they would have probably hit their head here and then took off anyway. Because once a low's established, they're going to pretty much hold it. Unless they're going to just literally break it and crater through it. And that's where we use these beautiful trend lines for. Okay? Thanks, everybody, again. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you on Monday.